Hey guys, Magnetico here, and welcome back to my series of videos where we take video game systems, we clean them up, repair them if need be, and sometimes we mod them. And today we're going to be taking a look back at the PlayStation 2 that we cleaned up in the previous episode. This is the same one that we took apart and cleaned up all the plastic pieces with some warm soapy water. We cleaned all the components with isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush, and we even replaced all the thermal pads. So this PlayStation 2 is ready to go and ready for many more years of action. So if you haven't seen that video yet, make sure you do. That way you're caught up. You can also have a pristine system, because for many of you, that is all you guys want to do. You just want to take all the dust out, clean your system, and then play your collection of games. For many collectors like myself, we know that the secondhand market for PlayStation 2 games is out of control. The games are hard to find, and when you can find them, they're very, very expensive. So one of the things we can do that's been going on for a while now is we can take those discs out of their case for a moment, put them into our computer, and then back them up so we can start playing them off of one of these. Now, this is not a new development. This has been going on for a very long time, but in this particular video for this project, I'm trying to create a very silent PlayStation 2, because the stock fan on the PlayStation 2 is pretty loud, and if you use our hard drive, it becomes even louder and also heavier as well. So we're going for a lighter and quieter PlayStation 2 using an SSD. So for the purposes of this video, we are going to be doing the SSD method. You guys don't have to. If you guys have a hard drive laying around, please use that one unless you want a quieter system, because the SSD does not benefit from the PlayStation 2. It doesn't make games load faster than a hard drive does, but using a hard drive or an SSD, they will load faster than they do on a disk. So for this video, we are going to be replacing the fan on the PlayStation 2 with a much quieter one. We are going to be doing the Noctua fan mod, which comes with the fan and the bracket included, and I'll go ahead and link all these items in the description below. The second mod we're going to work on is we're going to take this official PlayStation 2 hard drive adapter, and we're going to make it compatible with current hard drives and SSDs, because this is pretty old and it still has the old hard drive connection to it. There is one chip that we have to buy, and it's relatively cheap. None of these items require any soldering, and they're incredibly easy to install. We'll go ahead and cover that more in this video. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take a program called FreeMcBoot, which is the soft mod for the PlayStation 2, and we're going to add it onto a memory card. That way, whenever we plug in this memory card and leave it on the PlayStation 2, it'll directly boot into FreeMcBoot, which is the soft mod again, and it allows us to do all the cool things that we want to do, including playing all our PlayStation 2 games from a hard drive. Now, there is a much easier way to soft mod your PlayStation 2, and that is simply by going on Amazon.com and purchasing one of these already made FreeMcBoot memory cards. You can get these in all kinds of sizes. You can get them in 8 megabytes, 32, or like this one, 64. And not just that, but you can also get online and purchase a hard drive adapter that already comes with the updated connector for SSDs and current hard drives. Now, I will tell you right off the bat that the downsides are almost immediate. One is this comes loaded with so many apps that I was overwhelmed. I had no idea what I was actually messing with. Number two, you cannot play online because it doesn't have an Ethernet port or one of the phone jacks as well. So if you just want to play games, this might be a solid choice for you, but this is why we're going over this ourselves and doing the upgrades ourselves, because actually I'll tell you a few reasons. But again, if this is the way you want to go and this is like, hey, this is all I need, no worries. But for us, we can do better. Now that we put that aside, I want to go ahead and cover a couple of reasons why I'd rather do this the hard way. And after listening to this, hopefully you guys agree with me. If you don't, let me know in the comments below. Number one, it's the learning experience. I want to learn how to put Homebrew into my memory card for several reasons. The main one being, if I ever need to update any of the apps, I know how to remove them and how to add them into this memory card. Number two is I'll have to admit, I have control issues. I want to know exactly which apps in Homebrew are going into this memory card without having another one that has all kinds of apps, which you can get and get overwhelmed, and you just don't know what to do exactly. So with this one, I have complete control, and I know exactly what's going into this memory card because I did the research, I looked it up, and I found out what programs work best for my needs as well. And number three is reliability. when it comes to the OEM official products when it comes to the PlayStation 2. That's why I decided to go with the official hard drive adapter and the official memory card, because they go through rigorous quality control, while the other items are made overseas. And I can't say, I'm sure they do go through some quality control, but I can't say they go through the same amount as the PlayStation. So this is some of the reasons why. It's just reliability, learning how to do it, and also because, you know, control issues. So let's go ahead and start the tutorial proper now. If this is your kind of thing where somebody goes through and cleans up systems, repairs them if need be, and sometimes mods them, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you're notified every time I post a video. Let's get started. For this project, you're going to need a screwdriver set. This is the same one I've been using since the very beginning for my videos. You're going to need the fan mod for the PlayStation 2, a USB drive to work with your PlayStation 2. You're going to need the SSD or hard drive that you're going to be using to load up games, and then a bracket to hold that hard drive or SSD. A blank CD, a memory card, the hard drive adapter, and finally the IDE adapter to put into our hard drive adapter. So we're going to start with the hard drive adapter, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off these 4 larger screws. Now mine was pretty old from the looks of it. I did clean it up a little bit, but those screws were a little bit hard to take off, so please be patient with it. After you take off those 4 screws, there should be 2 smaller screws, and I can already tell the one on the left here is stripped, so I'll have to use some tweezers to pull that screw out. But once you pull out all those screws, you are able to remove the metal shielding. There's a special bit that you're going to need, which is a star shape, to remove these 4 screws. There should be about 4 of them at the bottom. And once you remove those, you're now able to disassemble the rest of this structure here. So we're going to go ahead and unplug this. You can either throw it away or keep it. It's up to you, but we no longer need that particular piece. Next is I'm going to lift the board up. Now there is springs on each side of the screw holes there, which I thought was a pretty interesting design choice. But once you lift the board, you are actually able to remove the ribbon. Now I'm able to easily pick up the right side of this piece of plastic, but the left side was giving me a little bit of trouble. So I went ahead and grabbed the tool. I can go ahead and pry this open. This is another piece that you can either choose to keep or throw away. We no longer need it. We're going to put this aside, and we're going to go ahead and get our IDE adapter. The one that I grabbed here and the one I'll link in the description below comes with the actual board, and it comes with the screws that you need in order to complete this particular process. It's pretty small, it's pretty simple. It even contains the ribbon. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way so we can finish up the rest of this particular upgrade. With the board in hand, we're going to go ahead and plug it into the ribbon slot here, and we're going to go ahead and close these latches on the left and on the right, nice and tight. We can go ahead and plug this connector to the board itself. Now we can go ahead and lay the main board back on top of the plastic structure here. And when you put in the bottom board here, you can go ahead and bend the ribbon under, as you can see on this video here. It does fit quite nicely and very tightly. I actually do like this design. I think it's great that you can actually upgrade your personal hard drive adapter for the PlayStation 2. So once we have that into place, we can go ahead and put this piece of plastic that came with the package, and go ahead and put the screw that came in the package along with that. I'm not going to tighten it all the way because there's another one that you had to put on the other side as well. So I'm not going to tighten it all the way, just so I have enough wiggle space to put this one as well. And once that's in place, we can go ahead and screw that down, and now we can finally tighten both sides of this board. Here I'm pushing down on the board just to make sure that everything's flush, and once it is, we can grab our metal shielding and put it back into place. You'll see me push the corners pretty hard here. I just want to make sure everything is flush before we put the screws down. I don't want a lot of pressure on the screws or the plastic just because that's metal shielding wasn't put on correctly. We're going to put in the 2 small screws back in first. Again, the one on the left was a little bit stripped, so I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm not going to turn it more than I really have to because I don't want to damage anything else. So we're just going to put it back into place, even though it is a little bit loose, but that's okay. But after that, we're going to take the 4 larger screws and put those back into place as well. And that is basically it. That completes the board upgrade. It is super easy, really simple, and very elegant. I love it. So now that we're done with this, let's put it aside. Next, we get to install the PlayStation 2 fan mod, and unfortunately, we have to take most of this system apart in order to install it. We're going to go ahead and remove the expansion door here, and then we're going to remove the rubber feet at the bottom, including the other 4 plastic pieces, and then we're going to remove 8 screws from the bottom. Now, while this is fast forwarding, if you guys don't know, I do have a previous video on the PlayStation 2 and how to completely disassemble it, clean it up, and make sure that it's nice and spanking new before we do any other mods. So make sure if you haven't yet to check out that video before we install any of these other mods. Now that we have all the screws from the bottom taken off, we can remove the lid. We're going to go ahead and take off this little plastic structure containing the reset button and power button. And we're going to put the lid apart somewhere else. We're going to take off these 2 screws holding the controller port together, and then 2 more screws in the back holding the power and the fan in place. I'm going to go and lift this little latch here so we can remove the ribbon, and we can easily remove the controller ports. I'm going to move the power switch aside, and I'm going to remove the back plate. If you guys remember from the previous video, it is a bit of a pain to flip this system over with all the loose pieces here. As you can see, one got caught with the bottom shell. So we're going to go ahead and take this bottom shell and put it out of the way, and we're going to flip the system over with the bottom facing up. I'm going to remove these 4 golden screws holding the power supply in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove this power supply and just put it aside for now. And I'm also going to remove the hard drive enclosure. And now we're exactly where we need to be versus where the fan is. I'm going to lift this plastic piece here, and I'm going to go ahead and unplug the fan. We can either keep this or put it away. It's up to you. But from the mod, we're just going to take this particular wire here. We're going to plug it in. And now we get to put this whole system back together. Starting with the hard drive enclosure, we're going to put that into place, and then we're going to make sure we plug in the power supply properly with those 4 prongs there. And once that's set in place, we can go ahead and take those 4 golden screws we took off earlier and put them back in. Now we get to flip this system over. Let's grab the bottom shell here and put the system back into place. It's not too bad, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the ribbon back into the controller ports and make sure it's latched in so it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm going to go ahead and tuck the ribbon under the system. As you can see, I'm just feeding it under so we can put the rest of this back into place. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 screws that we took on each side of this, and we're going to put those back in. And now we're going to work on the fun part, which is the actual mod. So I'm going to flip this system. I'm going to turn it around so the back is now facing us. And there is the wire that we plugged in earlier for the mod. We're going to go ahead and take the mod and plug in the mod wire into the wire we installed into the PlayStation 2. So this mod includes the backplate already in place. It's 3D printed, so it's going to look a little bit off, but we just put it into place, as you can see here, with the wire kind of going upwards from here. And once we put the shell back on, the wire should fall into the heatsink, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. I think it'll work just fine. Next, we're going to take the power button, or the power switch I should say, and put that into the fan mod structure. Once that's done, we can flip the system around and we can put this one screw here. I tried putting in the other golden screw that we had, but it wouldn't really go anywhere on that particular fan mod. So you can put it aside for now if you want to keep it. We don't need it. We only need one of the screws. Next, we're going to take the lid and we're going to put the power button, reset button structure back into place. Once that's clipped in, we can go ahead and put the lid back on. I did grab some Kapton tape so I can put a fresh piece of tape on this particular ribbon. Since we're not going to open it anytime soon, this is going to be its new home. I can go ahead and stick this here. That's kind of where we want it. And we're going to go ahead and put the lid back into the PlayStation 2. Everything's looking good. I didn't feel like I had to press any wires down or anything down. Everything just fell right into place. And if I flip this system over, I can look through and see if the fan is hitting the wire. I don't suspect the wire is going to hit the fan in any way, shape, or form. I don't like how the fan kind of sticks out like this. I've talked about this in one of my previous videos where I like sleeper systems where the insides can be different and very unassuming, but I don't like modding the outside so much. So we'll see how I feel about this. The 3D print really sticks out in this system, but we'll see what happens later. So let's put in all 8 screws, all the rubber feet, and the plastic pieces. And before we finish off this system with the hard mods, let's go ahead and flip it over to put on the expansion bay door. But for now, all the physical mods are complete. Good PlayStation 2. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now that we're done with our hard mods on the PlayStation 2, it's time to move over to the software side of things. So I'm going to do a quick item check with you guys so we know that we have everything that we need to make this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. We're going to need our hard drive adapter that we upgraded to accept the new current hard drives and SSDs. You're going to need a memory card that has been completely wiped off, but make sure that it's formatted. Make sure if you had any saves on it, make sure you back those up, and make sure that it's also wiped and there's nothing else in this, because we're going to try to make sure that we use as much space out of this memory card as possible. You're going to need a blank CD so we can go ahead and boot our PlayStation 2 into free DVD boot so we can begin this process. And we're going to cover all of this, don't worry. We're going to need your hard drive or SSD. In this case, I went with the 1 terabyte SSD, and I also already have the SSD inside of the little bracket. I'll go ahead and link that in the description below if you guys want a bracket as well. I highly recommend it. And you're going to need a thumb drive, and this is just a specialized one that I use that just has PS2 on it. This is what I put. You don't need a giant one, but 16 gigabytes is more than enough, and they're really cheap to get. Other items you're going to need that most of you guys might have out there, but I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know now so you know that you need to have these. Is one of them is going to be an actual DVD burner, and I do have an external one that I've been using for several years now. It has worked really well, and I only use it when I need to do projects like this. So I don't actually have a DVD drive on my personal computer. I don't think anybody does unless you have a laptop now. But again, an external one, they're really cheap to get now, so go ahead and grab one that can burn DVDs. And secondly is going to be a SSD or hard drive adapter. Now this goes to the SSD straight into a USB port on your computer so you can access it like an external hard drive in this case. Now this does come with a power cord as well in case you guys want to use an old hard drive, like one of those really big thick ones. So it does need that extra power. This one does come with that as well, so it gives you the option to use the SSD version, and if you plug in a power supply you can use an actual larger hard drive. So I'll go ahead and link these in the description below in case you need them. Let's go ahead and continue with the video. Before we get started on anything, the first thing you want to do is turn on your PlayStation 2. Once it's on, press triangle, and we're going to look at this DVD player version. It looks like I have version 2.10U. So we're going to be cross-referencing this with the website to see if this version is compatible with the disc, so we can go ahead and install Free McBoot. Next, we're going to visit the Free DVD Boot GitHub, and you can read through all the information here. I do recommend doing it because it does tell you a lot about which versions you need. But once you figure it out, or you figure out which PlayStation 2 you're going to be using, go to the pre-built ISOs link, and there you'll find all PS2 Slims. If you have a Slim and you don't have a Fat, that has one of these versions, whether it's the 2.10 or all the models that are 2.12. If you don't have that, make sure you get a slim version of the PlayStation 2 and try this ISO. For everybody else that does have a fat PS2 that does have this version DVD drive, go ahead and download this ISO. If it tells you that you can't view it, you just go to view raw and it should download automatically. I'm going to leave the ISO that I just downloaded on my desktop. That's typically where I work from, and I will use Image Burn to write the image to a disk. So use a DVD, DVD-R I think is what is recommended. And once you do, it shouldn't take very long. It's not a very large file at all. Burn it, and once that's done, once it's burnt, you can go ahead and write anything you want on it, so you know that that disk is for that particular purpose, and we're going to put it aside for now. Now that we have our DVD ready, let's go ahead and find the items that we're going to need to install FreeMcBoot and also run our games through our hard drive. This is going to be super bare bones. The only thing I'm worried about is making sure we have a memory card that allows us to soft mod the PlayStation 2, and I also want it to have a program installed that lets us run the games off the hard drive. So again, pretty bare bones. There's other programs out there. You can install emulators, all kinds of cool stuff. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to keep it simple and we're going to keep it bare bones. First thing we're going to do is go to FreeMcBoot, and we're going to find the newest version, which is 1966. And you guys know me, I typically work off the desktop, so I'm going to go ahead and just move that over here. And next up, we're going to go to Grimdoomer's Open PS2 Loader. Now, there is an original Open PS2 Loader, which is still being supported to this day, which is great. If you buy a memory card, or a FreeMcBoot memory card, I should say, from the internet, like Amazon or something, it most likely will have the original Open PS2 Loader. Now, the downside to that is that Open PS2 Loader, the original, only accepts hard drives or thumb drives, whichever you're running the games from, in FAT32 format, which means file sizes can only be up to 4 gigabytes, which means God of War 2, large games have to be split up somehow, and typically you would use OPL Manager for that. So I like a more drag and drop option, and that is what Grimdoomer is providing with this particular fork of Open PS2 Loader. It actually allows you to format your thumb drive or your hard drive, whichever one you're using for the games, in exFAT format, which means it accepts larger file sizes, which I think is fantastic. So for the purposes of this particular tutorial, we are definitely sticking with this because that is just the way to go. So in his GitHub here, we're going to go to releases, and we're going to go ahead and choose the newest one as of this video. There could be a newer one whenever you guys watch this video, but as of this video, this is the newest one. We're going to go ahead and download it, and download the zip file. And again, I'll be working off my desktop here as normal. We're going to go ahead and open these now. So for this particular Grimdoomer's Open OPL, there's going to be 3 programs here, or 3 versions of it. I stick to the original one. I actually don't know what these other 2 do. So we're going to do that. You can either delete this folder or this archive, or you can go ahead and set it somewhere and save it. For FreeMcBoot, we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and unzip this whole file here. Let's just go ahead and extract it like so. So I'll leave it like this for now. This is basically all we need. The only thing we have to do next is go ahead and take our thumb drive that we're going to be using for the PlayStation 2 and insert it into our computer. Now that the thumb drive is inserted to our computer, make sure that it is in FAT32 format. I'm going to go ahead and format it here, but as you can see here, it is FAT32. Default file size, I just call it PS2. It's the only reason I'm using this particular thumb drive, so it is exclusive to the PlayStation 2. Format it. And we're going to take our 2 files here, and we're just going to drag and drop them into the root here. Okay, so it looks like our setup is pretty much done. Let's go ahead and take our thumb drive, our memory card that we're going to be using for FreeMcBoot, and also the disk that we burned. We're going to take all of those and insert them into our PlayStation 2 and turn it on. The disk should boot automatically. If it doesn't, that's totally fine. There are times, a small percentage of times, it just won't load. Just go ahead and reset the PS2 and it should work the next time. Now, while we're loading this up, one of the things you noticed is that I inserted the memory card into slot 2, and that is very much on purpose. I want to run everything out of slot 2 because there are games out there on the PlayStation 2 that automatically save into slot 1. They don't give you the choice. Most of them do. They'll give you the choice if you want to save in slot 1 or slot 2, but there's some that automatically create a profile right off the bat into memory card 1. Now, that is totally fine if you have the room in your memory card, but then you have to restart your PlayStation 2 and then transfer that save file into another memory card. So to save myself the trouble, I'm just gonna go ahead and put everything into memory card number 2. So this is gonna load up. This is our launch ELF, and as you can see, there's nothing here on memory card 1, but slot 2 should definitely have something. Yep, this is kind of like our memory card. It has like the system save data. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's how I know there's something installed. We're gonna go to mass because that is our thumb drive. Next, we're gonna go to this file here. We're not gonna do OpenPL because first of all, we have to install everything into the actual memory card. So everything's coming out of our our thumb drive right now. So let's go ahead and get everything inserted into the actual memory card. So we're gonna go ahead and find this file called FreeMcBoot Installer ELF. Go ahead and run it. Once it runs, go ahead and hit install. It says it'll install it into memory card slot number 2, and that is the only memory card I have installed. So it detected that I only have one memory card in memory card slot 2. So I'm gonna hit yes. From there, you have a choice of how much stuff you want to actually install into your memory card. You know, if you want to save space, I typically would recommend this PS2 and similar units. If you want to do every PS2 in every region, this is the way to go. And if you only want PS2s, including the slims, the fats, only for the region that you're in, then this would be the option for you as well. Now, since I'm running an 8 megabyte card right now, I am probably just going to stick with this PS2 and similar units for this. But again, depending on your needs or how large your memory card is, pick your choice. I am going to choose this one. Once it's installed, that is literally all you have to do. We can go ahead and hit OK. We can go ahead and exit, hit OK. So once we exit the program, it should automatically take us into FreeMcBoot. And as you can see, we're running FreeMcBoot with a bunch of programs here already installed. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and take the disk out of the hard drive, or sorry, out of the disk drive. I'm gonna restart the PlayStation 2 just to make sure that it boots into this menu again next time I start it. So it looks like right with the restart, it automatically showed us the logo for FreeMcBoot. And it looks like it loaded straight into it. So that's good. So now we have a memory card that works fine. Again, mine is running out of memory card slot 2. And we're gonna go ahead and install the actual game loader into our memory card as well. So we're gonna go ahead and launch this wlaunch ELF. We're gonna go to the file browser. Circle is yes in this particular case, so don't get mixed up there. But what we're gonna do is the first thing we're gonna do is go to memory card, and we're gonna go to apps. And it installed the original Open PS2 loader, which I told you guys about earlier that we don't want. So we're gonna go ahead and take all these particular files. We're gonna press X to select them, not run them, but just select them. We're gonna press R1 to bring up the menu. We're gonna go down to delete and press circle to delete them. The reason being is that we want only their Grim Doomers version to be running. So let's go ahead and back out, go to mass. Let's go to this folder, or this Open PS2. You can run it now, but I recommend having it in the memory card. So we're gonna go ahead and select it again by pressing X. We're gonna hit R1. We're gonna hit copy and press circle to select it. And we're gonna go all the way to memory card 1, go to apps, hit R1, and then press paste with circle. Once it's there, that is it. It is now installed. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit restart on my PlayStation 2 one more time. Now that we have the PlayStation 2 restarted, we're gonna go ahead and make sure this Open PS2 Loader is the one that we just installed, the Grim Doomer version. So we're gonna go over to FreeMcBoot Configurator and we're gonna go ahead and run that. I'm gonna hit X as OK. This is just asking you what you want the OK button to be. I'm gonna hit X because that's what I'm used to. And we're gonna head down over to configure the options here. For the first option, it's gonna be the ULaunch ELF that we installed earlier. Second one is ESR, Open PS2 Loader. I'm gonna check to make sure that is the one. It looks like it's running it off the thumb drive, and we don't want that. We want it to run off the memory card. So let's go ahead and press X, memory card 1, apps, Open PS2 Loader. Okay, and before we do anything else, we're gonna go down here to return and make sure you save this to memory card 1, which is actually memory card 2. So save this particular change that we just made. There should be a confirmation at the top. Now we can exit. Now that we're at the home screen again, now we can go ahead and open the PlayStation 2 loader. We're gonna go ahead and do this without the hard drive in. Actually, while we're here, let's go ahead and remove the thumb drive as well. Now that we remove the hard drive, the only thing this thing is going to pick up and save to is going to be the memory card. I've had issues with this in the past where it would literally save to anything other than memory card slot 2. It'll pick the thumb drive or the hard drive. It'll pick the thumb drive if it's still plugged in there. So I'm giving this program no choice but to save to memory card slot 1 or slot 2 in this case. So the settings we have to change, and I'm not exaggerating here, we have to change these settings, otherwise you will have a bad time, is going to be down here. Now, I like changing the PlayStation 2 logo. I like seeing it at the beginning, showing you the little boop, the little PlayStation 2 logo. So I like that. But the stuff you do have to change, and you can skip this whole video, but this is the part you don't want to skip, okay? Is you want to go to BDM start mode. You want to go to auto. Once you hit auto, you want to press right to block devices. The hard drive is currently off and it will stay off even if you have one plugged in. So we want to make sure that we're reading the games off the hard drive. Hit OK. We're going to go back in. The next setting you want to change is we want to make sure the hard drive is turned on automatically. And that is it. That is all we can change, or all you have to change to make sure the games are read through the hard drive. You can mess with these other settings, display settings, audio settings. I like changing my sound effects to on. That way I have a confirmation of anytime I change something, for example. But before you exit, the last thing you want to do is hit save changes. And it'll look for a minute. It'll look for everything. And then finally it's like, fine, I'll save it on memory card slot 2. There we go. Memory card save to memory card 1. So now it's saved. We're good here. Now we can finally move on to the hard drive. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the SSD into my computer. And as you can see, it is a blank SSD. There's nothing in here. I'm going to go ahead and format this, make sure it is set to exFAT here. And just do the default settings. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it PlayStation 2 since that's what we're working with. Go ahead and format it to exFAT. You probably already noticed, but I had a bunch of games already kind of ready to go here on the side. So I'm going to create a folder in here called DVD. And we're going to take all these games and throw them into that DVD folder. Now, if you had a blue disk, then you would create a folder called CD and you will make sure that that's saved in there. So if you have any of those blue discs, make sure you save it into the folder called CD. Anything else, any of the silver bottom games, those are the DVDs. We're gonna go ahead and just throw it into this DVD folder. Perfect. Now that we have all these games on our actual SSD, we can go ahead and take that SSD and plug it into our Ethernet mod that we worked on earlier. Now that we're at the main menu here, we can go ahead and open PS2 Loader. It'll normally start us on the menu here, but we can go ahead and press circle to start the game list. And as you can see, all 3 games that I put in there earlier are now available in our SSD. So let's go ahead and run, I don't know, let's do Grand Theft Auto. It's a big game to load, so let's just see how long it takes now that we're running it off an actual SSD. Again, turning on that little see the PS2 logo at the beginning, always nice. I know there's people out there that prefer the fast boot, but I like seeing that PS2 logo. I like the boot screens. I don't know, I'm weird like that. I really am. You guys probably saw my my GameCube video where I was like, hey, I like to see the GameCube jingle, the GameCube logo boot up every time I play the game. So here we are with some San Andreas. As you can see, it's running fine. And running games from a hard drive or an SSD actually helps them load faster than a disk. I don't recommend running the games off a thumb drive. The thumb drives are only, well, whether you get a 3.0 or 2.0 thumb drive, it doesn't matter. The PlayStation 2 USB slots are only USB 1.0. So typically the games will take forever to load, cutscenes will stutter, so it's always better to run them off a hard drive. And there's no benefit to using an SSD. To be honest with you, they'll load just as fast as a regular hard drive, but if you want a silent option, the SSD is the way to go. I'm gonna go ahead and skip the cutscene here, but as you can see, here's CJ, and we're playing some Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It looks beautiful. It's so awesome. The modding for the PlayStation 2 is now complete, and now I have a PlayStation 2 so I can start streaming PS2 games and also play PS2 games on my gaming channel. Now I can tell you right off the bat there's a noticeable weight difference, and that is due to this unit of a hard drive adapter. I can't imagine how much heavier this would be if it had one of those large 3.5 hard drives inside of this. But yeah, I can tell there's a noticeable difference. But with an SSD and the Silent Fan mod that we installed, this system is whisper quiet. I actually thought the fan wasn't working at first because I couldn't hear anything, but I took it out, I plugged it in, turned it on, tested it out, and the fan does spin and it does blow the air out. So it is working. It's just surprising how quiet this guy is. So again, I'm super pumped to continue working on the PlayStation 2. The next episode is most likely just going to be finishing touches and accessories that we purchased, like I always do. And if you guys have any questions about any of the items, please post it in the comments below. And if you guys have any programs you guys want to recommend as far as Free Make Boot goes, please let me know. Post those in the comments below as well. And yeah, that's basically it. If this is your kind of thing where somebody goes through and cleans up systems, repairs if need be, and sometimes mods them, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and that way you're notified every time I post a video. Until next time, guys, bye bye.